Hey guys, okay, so this is gonna be a continuation of that last video that I just posted. I'm gonna try and talk quieter and remember to talk quieter because my birds are still asleep. So hopefully they're not gonna wake up. This is the Archangel that was coming through Azrael. So if you guys feel compelled to look this one up, then cool. So because I feel like I was just tired of talking at that point. But it's not really fair to stop at the 50s and say, okay, and everything's great now, which I don't think that was the way I came across. Hopefully not. But it's just a continuation of how we as a whole are able to continuously use the system against them in a positive way. Because you think about different movements from the 50s and beyond where, like, the Black Panthers, right, they ended up, because there were equal rights, right, and Martin Luther King Jr., you think about them, they used their rights to bring about change and to defend themselves, to properly arm themselves, because for so many centuries before they didn't have those rights. And the only reason those were even enacted, in some ways, I'm not going to say, but basically it was for the selfish needs or desires, it's not needs, but the selfish desires of the people in power, the people in place. And the thing is like, the way it is if we look at the beginning of time, like I talked, and it's of satanic principles, they've effectively created layers of people that will protect them, right? So you have the monarchy, you have other controlled countries, and within that there are people who are either descendants of them, you know, or like cousins that they see lesser of, but they feel like they're important as well, when in reality they would be eliminated immediately if, like, they're the fail-safes, right? They think they're safe, or they think that they could probably outsmart. They're all backstabbing each other. If you've ever been around people who are out for their own good, it's a very dangerous place, right? Everyone's just kind of has their guard up because you can't trust anyone because everyone's selfish, right? And so, and then within there you can infiltrate, right? Good people, you can infiltrate these places. But this majority rule of evil people that are protecting them, right? Because, and the way that they created this is through abuse, through psychological abuse. It's literally what's happening. The way that it happened, where it drips down to America, is they took slaves and for centuries and centuries and centuries physically abused them. So the abuse was two different ways, which means that these two groups of people for centuries had grown up to look at each other as enemies, when the true enemy is the select few up here that controlled an even more select few, right? The white people were psychologically abused time and time and time again. The black people were physically abused over and over and over again. And that's not to say that there weren't. The thing is like, can you really blame them though? Like I was gonna say, there's like not that. There are some black people, like slaves, that probably weren't that great people. But at the same time, I'm like, can you blame them though? Like, can you actually, you know what I mean? And it's the same thing here, where it's like the colonizers. It's the same, like, I don't know, it's kind of difficult because I'm not there. But it's because, again, if you go back to that last video, it's like, this never had to happen. it never actually had to happen. If everyone was healed, if everyone learned from all the different centuries of abuse and enslavement and evil, this should have never happened. But, you know, it's kind of like replacing. You can replace, just like with the slaves. They'll just replace them, right? Like, they'll just go and capture some more people and replace them. What's that for them? The same thing with the white people, the colonizers. It's like, just throw them in jail. I don't care. You know, let's get the rest of them to keep repopulating, because they needed the white people who were under psychological abuse. Overall, that's generalizing, because of course there was physical abuse and all that, and then the same thing with here. Of course they're psychologically being abused, but what was the main component, right? But they needed these people, they needed to psychologically abuse them so that they could continue to empower the select few, right? And to bring them the goods, bring them the money, bring them the resources, so they can live sitting pretty and get richer and richer and richer and richer, because money is power, right? Whoever controls the money controls the entire system. You can shut everything down if you had enough money, right? Look at Elon Musk. He's shutting things down left and right and turning things on. Anyway, yeah, so that's what they're banking on, is to create a culture of white people who will follow, you know, and the ones who don't, just get rid of them. Same thing with the slaves. The ones who try and run away and all that, I don't care, get rid of them, right? You can get enough where it'll continue, and they were able to do that for so long. The difference now is, I'll get to it, but they've institutionalized racism today, okay? And I do want to point that out, that it's not necessarily that racism is just, it's not here anymore. Obviously it is, right? Like I said, I have two neighbors of two different generations, and I'm not someone who throws the racist thing around easily at all. They're like actually racist. Like, I don't want to get into it. But there's zero question, okay? And that's where I operate from with racist people, is like, someone has to actually tell me, or they have to do something that's like literally no question. I can see all angles and give excuses for everyone multiple times. Just trust me on this. That's what I say. Just, I'm the last person that's gonna say someone's racist. And anyway, okay, so it's definitely institutionalized, and especially in the sense that segregation, because that's what I feel is like, is so unfair. It's so unfair for the African American population to it's like, just integrate. Like, this stuff is raw. Like, it took hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years just to get to the place that we're at today, just to get to that. But what did they do, right? And I'm generalizing, because it took a lot of help from the white people. It took a lot of help. It was a concerted effort. We have to remember that. We can't shave that off from history, which is what they're attempting to do, because they're trying to keep that separation alive, so that we pin ourselves against each other, when at this entire time we've been trying to work on it. We've been trying to work. We're both, I'm not even, I mean, I'm American, but neither one of my parents are. I'm actually not a part of this. I'm a part of this because I'm also American. I'm an immigrant, okay? Any hoodles. But the thing is that what am I saying? They're trying to continue this rooted system. They're trying to keep that, because you think, like, It's so silly, like how ingrained that is, right? For the white people, right? Take it to the 50s and take it to these people that are existing now that are like blatantly racist, right? It's a select, I'm not gonna say it's a select few, because there's more racist people now that they were able to infiltrate these belief systems on. They put those belief systems onto them, right? And so then it's kind of like we're just taking care of ourselves. They just throw in a little bit of bait, right? You throw in some bait and then now everyone's attacking each other when there's so many good white people and so many good black people. It's just that the select brainwashed people that create the chaos that keeps this disorder, and then it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. It kind of just like ripples out. And so it's like all the people that are not insane and not brainwashed need to just be that brick wall. They need to be the adult that holds the toddler that's punching, and hold the toddler's hands and be like, let's not do angry hands, okay? Let's just sit down and talk about it. Let's figure out why you're feeling so upset, okay? So no angry hands. It's okay. I love you. Now let's figure out what hurts. You know, like what's going on. Okay. And what did they say to you? Okay, that's what they said to you. All right. Well, I understand both sides, you know, and we could peacefully talk about this, because I know that it's because you love them, or because your feelings are hurt because of whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you have to figure it out. Now I'm saying you instead of we. You got to figure it out. I don't got to figure it out. I do have to figure it out. But anyway, so yeah. And you think about, because they needed the white people to not only populate the world, or sorry, we're talking about America. They needed the white people who would share these belief systems that they're trying to create. Which it wasn't, I'm saying white people, but it was the white man. No offense, but like, women didn't have rights, okay? And that was since the beginning of time, okay? Little sore spot there, but it's the women, first of all, that can we're the key, but I digress. Let's stick to this. But that's literally it. That's literally it. Okay. That'll get me fired up. So we have the men. Oh, wait. Sorry, what was I saying? We have the white. Oh, sorry, I have to be quiet. So we have the white guys, right? And they're trying to instill these beliefs, right? And then anyone who acts out, religiously acts out because they're using the Bible against people, right? It's like, even the thing that I read yesterday about long suffering, I'm sure they would be like, see, long suffering, like we have to experience this, you know, or witchcraft. It's like anyone with a brain is probably practicing witchcraft or whatever. Like they're weaponizing the word of God against people. And then anyone who questions it, like the Quakers who believe, I think it's more of the truth of what the Bible says, then they're gonna get rid of them, right? Anyone who acts out, they get rid of. They eliminate people who don't share the same belief systems, and then they frighten people into following it. So then you have just like this, I'm not gonna say select few, but you would have the quiet people who are kind of quietly having their own beliefs but just surviving. And those people, that's why they allowed some people to succeed, because you need to have successful people to feed the beast, right? To give them that money. It's like running a successful business, right? You can't just have you can't, as a business owner, as a little business advice for someone, it's like you can't be at your shop all day long. you know, overseeing everybody. You know, you want to go ahead and put people who are reliable people who share the same belief system, because this is a business. This is a business. America's built as a business, which is why you should have put a businessman who is not part of this into office. I digress, but it's a business. And so you want to put those people in that'll operate it for you, so you can go out and what? Create another business and do the same thing. That's literally all they're doing. But it's off of evil, right? It's off of evil. And what happens when you have a successful business and there's a competitor out there, or they're not even a competitor, but they see you with money? They're going to come in and try and, you know, do some dirty stuff to get that piece of the pie. They don't want you to have anything. They want it. Because what does that mean for them? That they're not going to have that. It's going to weaken them, because they, instead of looking around like some good business owners, and they're like, there's enough for everyone. Of course I want people to do good. Of course I want to treat them with respect. Of course I want them to have a taste of the good life. Of course I want my employees to feel like they are earning a healthy wage and that they can work their way up, or that they can make money and go do what they want to pursue, right? They don't do that. But that's where the weakness it starts breaking down, is because there are good people in there. It's kind of like the same thing. You can go back to the business, where if you have this selfish, evil dictator of a business owner, and then they have people working for them, and they're trying to give them like pennies on the dollar and overworking the heck out of them, and they don't have a choice to go anywhere else because they need to survive. But what do? They hustle and hustle. Well, I don't like the word hustle, because that's like you'll do anything at all costs. I don't like that. But they'll work and work and work and work. Just eventually, this is America, right? I'm talking about America still, because ain't nowhere else, very rarely is there somewhere that you can go and do this. Nowhere in the world, especially with homeless people, you just get things handed to you. You don't have to survive. You know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy to think about. Like, other countries, you gotta survive. You gotta figure, and some countries, it's like, I don't care how old you are, you gotta get up and go to work. You don't just lay around and be lazy. We'll give you a job. It's crazy to think about, but that's part of the manipulation tactic here, is to enslave the mind, because there's way too many people. That's why all these people are like the higher ups, you know, and it's like all over, like, oh, they want to depopulate. Heck yeah, they want to depopulate. What do you mean? There's way too many people. There's a good people is what I mean. There's way too many difference of beliefs and good people that are waking up and are rising up and being like, hey, hold up. It's like if you have cattle, you're growing cattle, which is how they view us, all of us, you know, in two different ways. And then the cows, oh my gosh, it's like that, the Animal Farm. Oh, the book. Anyway, and they revolt, right? And then they go eat the farmer or something. Okay. Oh, did I mention this? I'm gonna derail again. Okay, so this is what I want to mention. I don't like this. I don't like this when people say, like, psychics or whoever, I don't know, analysts, or I don't know what you would call them. They're probably like journalists or something. Who cares? And they're like, this is where we're headed. This is what we're gonna do. Like, let's say, for example, maybe I'm guilty of this too, I'm not sure, but it's like the whole thing about Mars is like, this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna go to Mars and be enslaved, and people are gonna be left here to die and be tortured, and then eventually these people from Mars, they're like, you know, slaves. They're breeding slaves, okay? It's the same thing that they're happening now, is they're enslaving the mind, because they can't necessarily, they're already enslaving people in other countries and also other places, and then they're creating cultures of like gangsters, right, who who are doing the same thing, but on different, they're taking it in different levels and creating this like immoral society and glamorizing this more immoral society. Because that's another point that I'm saying is like, when you train the mind to be short-sighted, you're training the mind to want instant gratification, which is demonic, right? Patience, long suffering, that is virtuous. Of course, they probably, like, did I say already? They use that against like, oh, long suffering, you know, all that garbage, and see, you know. But anyway, okay. Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm just. Oh, I need to be quiet again. Sorry. Okay, so with the Mars, and them, me saying, for example, like that's what's gonna happen. No, it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen, because that, in a way, is prophesizing, or it's taking away the liberties of people already. It's psychologically taking away the liberties of people, so that when they roll out different laws or they roll out different things in order to get us to Mars, instead of saying, no, that's not right, you need to, you know, get some laws in place and freaking, you know, stop this, you just allow it because you're like, oh, that's what was supposed to happen. See, they're right. No. No, we can say no. We don't have to repeat history. It is a continuous thing throughout all these different countries, thousands of years. It's just constantly happening. We need to freaking put a stop to it. Okay. Where was I? Slave people, slave minds. Yeah, so basically, it's just like, I lost the plot. Yeah. Oh, that's kind of what I was saying with like these good white people. Like they were decent slave owners. I'm not gonna deny that part. In the sense of, I think they were really good-willed people that were just trying to survive and trying to make a living, and they probably treated them very, very fairly, you know, and created a community for them to live and treated them like respect, you know, and honor. But you can't let them run away. I don't think I don't think that they, like, I think they created a culture where they wouldn't want to run away, because obviously pioneering and, you know, like early colonial life is not glamorous. And so through that, they're able to live harmoniously to whatever type of degree. And so it kind of worked in those people's favors, but also not good for like the greater whole of people, because then there's less people fighting for those rights of the others, right? And I'm sure that they, I don't know, it's kind of a complicated thing, because you can't sit there and say everyone was horrible or everyone was good either, right? On all angles. It fluctuates, just like now, right? Like there's so many different people with different methods of how they're trying to do the right thing, but a lot of it goes unnoticed, or a lot of it's quieted down, because I think that they really want to keep history looking a certain way, so that there's always that tinge of hatred and soreness, which is true. It's definitely true. Like, we're still struggling in some ways, but they persevered. Like, the good white people persevered, and the good black people persevered, and they worked together. In truth, they worked together in order to beat the system, right? Even bearing arms all the way up until now, right? I'm fast forwarding all the way to now, where they were able to defend themselves. They used, and that's the whole issue now, where they're trying to, you know, a lot of it is lobbying to remove different laws, and even with our privacy laws, right? And I think people aren't really the people who are kind of allowing it, like, oh, it's gonna better people. It's not. It's not. It's gonna backfire because it's creating control for who, right? Like who's actually in control, who's actually watching us. You have to keep these laws in place for us to protect ourselves, you know? And they're using it against us. And this is the whole time. I'll show you guys these books that I recommend. Once again, it's going to repeat the other ones. These are all books I haven't read. I'm not even kidding. Like, I swear on everything, I have not read these books. I haven't even read the back of the books. I don't have to, in truth. I don't have to know what's in it. But because I am recommending it, I will be reading them this year. I told you this one I'll read. It'll take me probably a month with everything that I have to do and all that. And it's a relatively thick book. I will read this. This. I will read those. It'll take me probably a month for each book, in truth, but so maybe 3 months. Probably longer than that. Probably like the rest of the year. maybe 6 months or something. I don't know. We'll see. Those are books that I recommend because all this time that this is happening, right, between all of this, they're inserting their own agendas. They're recruiting select few, recruiting on both sides, actually, which is so crazy. And then throwing in ways to dismantle the ways that they're trying to use the laws for them. So that makes sense today of why certain people get eliminated, certain people get paid off, certain people have some campaigns against them because they don't want them forming something that can disrupt the hierarchy, right? And they've put in place people with powerful positions who will do anything to protect their own selves. You know, you get a taste of the good life. Think about if you're wealthy yourself, right? And how pleasant that is. And it's like, you don't want someone disrupting that. You probably worked really hard. If you're, as a good person, okay, we're going to take a good person who worked really hard for their money and your lifestyle. It's like, you don't want someone coming in and just ripping that out of your hands after you've done all this work for it. There are people, obviously, who will do anything to get that, and then above that, and then above that, and then they operate with like the lower levels of people who operate off of jealousy, greed, you know, just the demonic. They're the pawns. They're the pawns, the lowest of the low, right? And they're probably the biggest victims in some ways. Anyway, yeah, so during all of this time, they're inserting counterintelligence, right? To dismantle over and over again. Counterintelligence. You think about all the different movements to free the blacks, free the black people. Think about that. Like, freaking crazy. They're doing it now. So it's like not so radical to believe, right? Because it's actually happened and happening. But anyway, where did I want to go with that? There was something that I wanted to say that I can't remember now. Not to mention, and I was talking about, like, didn't I say that about, like, how they're, you know, with like all of this stuff that I'm talking about with social media, and how it's making a culture that desires, it's a reactionary culture, right? So you want immediate gratification, which is in truth like satanic, right? And so all of these temptations that are here, where they're kind of like breadcrumbing society, right? And giving everyone here and there a taste taste of something, you know, that's like good because they've never had it. It's like, same here. You know, I'll do it with the white people. You know, with the whites, they're throwing in little breadcrumbs of like, I don't even know, like enough stipend for them to get flour or something. And it's like, oh, you know, we haven't had that in a long time. When they created this suffering, they created that pain, but it demoralizes everyone, right? It demoralizes you to a point that like anything little seems to be so good, and then, you know, the point that I'm getting is yeah, Satan can be scary. Like it can come in the form, like demons can come into the form of being scary or threatening or looming or whatever. But it's not necessarily supposed to be like that all the time. It's also seductive, right? It's also confusing. It's all of those things. So they're trying to seduce and toxify the public and the people so that we willingly continue to do their bidding. There's too many good people and too many people that they have to throw in now constant psychological warfare, like counterintelligence. They need to poison everyone in many different ways. They need to confuse people in many different ways so that keeps all the systems weak enough to control. And then from that controlling, then they can reunite everyone. And then they're going to go and try and start from scratch, right? They want to go conquer somewhere else and create from square one of an enslaved environment, which is not so hard to believe because it literally just happened. And it literally took the same amount of time, 300 to 500 years, before people started wisening up. No, that's not right. They were already wise, but they didn't have the resources. And that's probably how long. Wasn't the thing where it took like, who was the one who crossed and freed the people from Egypt? Was it Moses? He like opened the river or whatever. And it's like, I mentioned this in one of the videos because I don't know. I always kind of assumed like parting the sea was consciousness. It's parting the consciousness of people. So it took 300 years to part the consciousness, to awaken the consciousness of people in order to free them, for them to take that mass exodus. I'm not sure. Maybe that's supposed to be like actually people living for that long, because I did feel that way. Like the consciousness of people, you know, and the awareness of people's life remained longer, and that's essentially how. And there were different DNA, so of course they existed in a longer time frame. I don't know. Yeah, but they're trying to dismantle everyone and disrupt everything, you know, so that so that society can kind of take care of themselves, like I was talking about with the ants. You know, they want them to just continue to fight each other. Because I'm thinking about hip hop. That was part of the readings that I got, the significance of hip hop and how they're recruiting people. Because that's what they're doing, is they created this culture, right? They in truth manipulated. I'll say that. They didn't create the culture. Okay, back up. And then maybe I'll just do this in another video, but I'll end it here. I'm losing the plot too much. Is what I saw in my visions. Okay, this is where I'm explaining it, which it totally makes sense when I'm like talking about all this together. is they created the culture that created hip-hop. Okay? How did they do that? Is because they kept taking, every time, it was like, it's like so frustrating to think about. It's like every time they freaking try, these African Americans, or at that time they were, I mean, I guess they were African American as soon as they touched soil, but it was like they were still Africans, right? They're deculturalizing them, right? They're creating a culture here, and then like black people they're creating their own culture because they were stolen, and so they're trying to create an identity because their identities are from their ancestors, or from all over the place. It's an identity from torture. And so what they did was they started, every time the black people would try and liberate themselves, they would find a freaking loophole, which again I'm generalizing because they needed the help of the white people, which they would have never, again, going back, they would have never had these opportunities if it wasn't for the greed of the hierarchy, of the select few. I'll say the select few because I'm not going to say that it's a black or white person or anything. I don't really know who they are. They're demons, in truth. It's demons. It's literal demons. I'm sorry, like, even if you're a human being doing that, like, no, you have no soul. You have no soul in that. Granted, everyone has a soul, but, you know, very dark people. That's why I think they're, like, literally, like, that's literally has to be Antichrist. There's just no way that they're not. Well, Antichrist, I don't know. It's so crazy. Whatever. Moving on. So every time black people just got one step ahead, you know, I'm just thinking, sorry, I'm thinking back. It's so stupid to me. It's so stupid. Because black people, a lot of black people fought in World War II. What do you think? Like, they needed it, right? Like, the people who controlled, who manufactured the war, okay, they manufactured the freaking war, are so stupid because Americans were fighting against inequality and freaking slaughtering of people, which was happening in their own country. In their own freaking country. How horrific and just crazy and just outrageous that must feel for people, black people and white people, and the freaking racist white people, because that was already that was hundreds of years later, so it was already brainwashed into these other people, white people. It's like, how crazy. You come back from war, and again, like, you're fighting with the immigrants to have a place to work, you're fighting with other people to work, and then you're witnessing all that, and then now you just, you go back to the way you were? And then these black people are freaking fighting for the liberties of others, and then they come back and it's like, excuse me, why are you fighting that? Why is it wrong for them to do it, but how come that's happening here? Like, that is just like, you know, if I wanted to get really, really angry, I would get extremely angry about that. It makes me so mad. Oh, it doesn't. Anyway, it's so wild. It's so wild. And to think, like, how is this applied? Because this stuff's happening. Okay. Back to, what was I talking about? Hip hop. Oh. So hip hop, maybe I'll just keep, I don't know, we'll see. Okay. So hip hop, it was born out of them, basically the system that was controlled by this, but they've already created these layers of people who are kind of doing their own bidding and running amok. They segregated, right? They segregated the people. segregated black people. Oh, go over there. We don't want you. You're free, but you're not. And you're not allowed to go do the same things, but go over there. And then with all this counterintelligence and poison and experimentation that they were doing on black people, they're doing it on white people too, okay? They were 100% doing it with 100,000%. They're doing it on everyone. But then they try and like make this stupid myth, right? They try and continue this myth, but in a crooked way. Like you get what I'm saying. You already get the point. But they created this struggle culture. It's a new struggle. It's a drug culture. It's a drug glamorization. It's a satanic principle. So they're trying to twist and weaken. They're trying to weaken the black community in order to create a reason to continue that mentality that there's a difference. You see what I'm saying? Where it's like, that's a violent thing. That's the psychological and poison that they were doing here, right? And so the good black people that were trying to persevere and have these liberties, they're getting infiltrated. And granted, it's kind of like both ways. Like, it's the same thing with like racism, but they did the same thing with white people and poisoning them as well. But it's also different in the way that they continued this racism, where you have the free will to not fall into that, right? At this point in the 50s, you could stand, women probably couldn't, but men, and they did, but they couldn't, but for them, a lot of the voices were a lot louder, right? And so there's counterintelligence coming in, infiltrating and confusing people and messing with them in order to continue that legacy. Then with the black people, the same thing, but continuing a legacy that makes them seem barbaric and animalistic, right? Where they're giving them these drugs or diseases and everything in order to perpetuate this. When there's a lot of even good black people that are like, listen, we can't be having drugs in the system. We can't be doing this. We've fought for this opportunity. We can't, you know? Or if they're trying to incite violence against white people and white people are incite, you see what I'm saying? Like it starts getting so mixed up, and the beliefs go back to black and white of the core of things as far as what's moral and immoral, what's godly, what's satanic. You can go to the root of it to kind of dictate how you operate. It's just kind of hard to say though, because like, I don't know, I don't want to get into that part. But anyway, so hip hop, I feel like one of the biggest things though, okay, one of the biggest manipulations on people is to continue this straight line between people, which they're trying to reopen those wounds today, which I don't believe are as, they're not the same. It's not the same as even 50 years ago. It's not. It's just not. And I'm not gonna say that I've been to the hood, okay? I know the hood. And I totally get it, and I totally get the way that some people will look at you. I'm talking from the perspective of a minority. And it's like, they look at you like you're a thief, or they look at you like you're a threat. And it's different for a black man than it is for like a ethnic female or a really black female. It's different. And I know this too because I meet ignorant people, and they'll treat me a certain way, but if I tell them I'm a different race, then they start treating me a different way. You know what I mean? Like, it starts like, Like oh, okay, or you know, they won't talk to you until they find, or if you look, or it's like I get it to some degree, and it's not something that you can escape, right? Like it's different with like gay people or whatever. Like you can kind of pose as straight, right? You can't hide your color, you can't hide that. And what was I getting with that? Triggered. I don't even know what I was getting with that. I totally forgot. But basically with the hip hop. This is it. They're making these, and it's not the nature of people. The nature of people, like I said, is to understand their differences and have indifferences with people and different belief systems, right? But that's why we have to bring the light into everyone, the God into everyone, because we'll come to the same conclusion, which is our origins. And that's why I think it's so silly for people to even have a racist bone in their body, or not just racist, but like sexist or any sort of discrimination. Discrimination, obviously, from like surface level, obviously it's so stupid. Discrimination is so freaking dumb. However, when you look at it from a spiritual level and a reincarnated level, it's like you've literally been everyone and everything, and we're all connected. We're all from the same source. We're not like, this is one little experience, right? Like if you're a black person, you're only a black person for like 100 years, maybe, if you're lucky, right? Like this is just a little bit of you. Or if you're a white person, you're only a white person for however long that you live. You've been all different kinds of things. And it's also figuring out like, why are you there? Why are you here? What is your purpose? How can, and it's about healing yourself on your journey, whatever your journey is, helping other people, enjoying yourself. Like, it could be so simple, because it is so simple. It literally is so simple, and yet we overcomplicate it because evil has overrun everything. And people can be weak, right? The weakness, like if you're not strong in your beliefs, and you're not strong as a person, you know, if you don't have integrity, which is like real life stuff, right? So many people without integrity. Yeah, so hip hop, back to hip hop, right? They're perpetuating, this is a long-standing thing towards the source. Okay, this is like deeper, which in everything of all of this, again, there are a lot of really good people. So I will not deny that. It just gets harder and harder when you get up there. So, and you'll never get up there. Sorry, you can. We have to change the system. We have to reveal this. We have to pull the blinds off of this and stop it from here. We have to stop here and then go back up. But that's a huge threat. You think they're not gonna do an all-out, like they have indispensable. That's why I think that global reading that I had, I'm like, all this stuff's gonna potentially happen. Start preparing, get your stuff ready. Like, they'll shut everyone off at instant. You think everyone's not gonna turn into freaking crazy people? They're gonna turn into crazy people because they've already created a toxic culture of regular people, right? We created that from the system. It just started trickling down, right? And populating everyone. Like, we'll take care of ourselves, essentially. The same thing will happen. We'll take care of our freaking selves. So, they bank on that idea of a struggle culture. They bank on that and basically continue a psychological abuse and manipulate the mind and manipulate the culture and create that separation. They try, and which is an illusion. That's not real. That's not real. We are not separate people. And they implement it because, you know, not all cops in the hood look at people like they're dangerous people, you know, or if you're in like a low income place, you know, that's not just, that's like mixed race and stuff in both places, mixed race. But they don't, not everyone looks at them like they're the enemy, but a lot of them do. Which in some ways, it's like they have a reason in some ways because there's obviously a lot of crime in there. But then that kind of just creates a stigma on both ends and burning tension on both ends. Like it needs a lot of healing. It needs a lot of healing. And even like if you think about gangsters, I'm talking like hood gangsters. You get a taste of the good life, right? And so then you just think short term. You think short term, what can I get out of this? You know, instead of saying, I don't want to live that life anymore. You know, I'm going to get out and I'm like, get out of the streets and I'm going to do something good. I'm going to do something better. I'm going to live. Like my perception of living is not all of these things I didn't have and this glamorization that's through music. I just went on a long rant about that, but it's just too much. I don't even want to talk about it right now. So I'm just going to let it cut off from that last video and just leave it at that. Whenever I feel like talking about hip hop, then I will. But that's essentially it. Okay, bye.